Dr. Lisa Martinez walked through the bright white halls of Harmony's Edge Research Station. The station floated in space between three different worlds. Each world was home to a different alien race. Today was special. Today, the first medical exchange program between humans and aliens would begin. Lisa carried a tablet with information about the alien students. She had read their files many times, but she still felt nervous. These aliens were much more advanced than humans in medicine. Their technology could do things that seemed like magic to human doctors. The main meeting room had large windows that showed the stars outside. Lisa entered and saw the alien students already waiting. They stood in three separate groups, each group from a different world. The first group looked like living crystals. They were called Zephyrians. Their bodies were made of clear, blue crystal that glowed softly from inside. When they moved, their crystal bodies made tiny musical sounds. The leader of this group was named Crystalline Song of Healing. The name was hard for humans to say, so Lisa just called her Crystal Dot. The second group had long, flexible arms like octopus tentacles. They were called Aquarians because they came from a water world. Their skin was smooth and green, and they could breathe both air and water. The leader was named Flowing Current of Life. Lisa called him Flow for short. The third group looked like giant insects, but they walked on two legs like humans. They were called the Collective. Their bodies were covered in hard, black shells, and they had 4 arms instead of 2. They spoke in a way that sounded like many voices at once. Their leader was called Unity of Many Minds. Lisa called her Unity. Lisa smiled at the 3 groups. Welcome to Harmony's Edge Station. I am Dr. Lisa Martinez. I will be your guide during this exchange program. The alien students looked at Lisa with curiosity. To them, humans were very primitive. Human medicine seemed old and simple compared to their advanced technology. Crystal spoke first. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Dr. Martinez, we are honored to learn about human healing methods. Though we must say, we are surprised that humans still use such basic techniques. Lisa nodded. She had expected this reaction. I understand that our methods may seem simple to you, but sometimes simple methods work very well. Flo moved his tentacle arms in a pattern that meant agreement among his people. We have studied human medical records. You still use metal tools to cut into bodies. You use thread to sew wounds closed. Our people stopped using such methods thousands of years ago. Unity spoke with her many voices. The Collective are curious about human stubbornness. Why do humans not adopt better technology when it is available? Lisa smiled again. That is exactly what we hope to learn from each other during this program. You will show us your advanced techniques and we will show you our methods. Maybe we can both learn something new. The door to the meeting room opened and 2 more humans entered. The first was a tall man with short brown hair and strong hands. He wore a simple green uniform that looked different from Lisa's white doctor coat. This was Jake Collins, a field medic who had worked in many dangerous places. On Earth, the second person was a young woman with red hair and bright eyes. She wore a student uniform and carried a large bag of books. This was Amy Foster, a medical student who was excited to learn from the aliens. Let me introduce the rest of our human team, Lisa said. This is Jake Collins. He is what we call a field medic. He treats injured people in emergency situations, often without fancy equipment. Jake nodded at the alien students. Nice to meet you all. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do. And this is Amy Foster, Lisa continued. She is a medical student, like all of you. She is here to learn. Amy waved enthusiastically. Hi everyone, this is so exciting. I've read about all your medical techniques. They sound amazing. The alien students looked at Jake with special interest. They had read about field medics in their preparation files. To them, field medicine seemed like something from ancient history. How could anyone practice medicine without proper equipment and clean environments? Crystal tilted her head, making soft crystal sounds. Mr. Collins, we understand that you practice medicine in combat situations. How do you perform healing without quantum tissue reconstructors? Jake chuckled. Well, Use what I have with me. Basic tools, basic supplies. The goal is to keep people alive until they can get to a real hospital. But how can you ensure proper cellular regeneration without biofluid optimization? Flo asked, his tentacles moving in confusion. And how do you prevent infection without nano-sterilization protocols? Unity added with her chorus of voices. Jake looked at Lisa, who encouraged him to answer. I clean wounds with antiseptic, stop bleeding with pressure and stitches, and use antibiotics to prevent infection. It's not fancy, but it works. The alien. Students made sounds of disbelief. Their own medical training required years of study just to learn how to operate their basic equipment. The idea of treating serious injuries with such simple tools seemed impossible. Lisa decided to move the conversation forward. Why don't we start with a tour of our medical facilities? Then each group can demonstrate their techniques. They left the meeting room and walked through the station. The medical bay was divided into sections. One section had human equipment. It looked simple compared to the alien sections. There were basic surgical tools, simple monitors, and standard hospital beds. The Zephyrian section glowed with soft blue light. Their equipment looked like it was made of the same crystal as their bodies. Complex machines hummed with energy, and holographic displays showed information in 3 dimensions. The Aquarian section was filled with tanks of different colored liquids. Tubes and pipes connected everything together. The air smelled like the ocean, and the sound of flowing water came from hidden pumps. The collective section looked like the inside of a computer. Black panels covered the walls, and thousands of tiny lights blinked in patterns. Small robot-like devices moved around, checking and adjusting equipment. Each section represents the best medical technology from our worlds, Crystal explained. We have brought our most advanced healing methods to share with you, Lisa nodded appreciatively. This is impressive. Your technology is far beyond what we have on Earth. Amy was practically bouncing with excitement as she looked at everything. This is incredible. How does it all work? Unity's multiple voices answered. The collective used nanosurgical swarms. Millions of tiny robots work together to repair damage at the cellular level. Surgery becomes unnecessary when machines smaller than cells can fix problems from the inside. Flo gestured with his tentacles toward the tanks in his section. Aquarians have perfected bioregenerative medicine. These fluids contain living organisms that can regrow any damaged tissue. We simply submerge the patient in the correct mixture, and their body heals itself. Crystal's body chimed as she moved toward her equipment. Zephyrian quantum healing works by manipulating the fundamental energy patterns of living tissue. We can restore perfect health by returning cells to their ideal quantum state. Jake listened to all of this with interest, but he also looked skeptical. That all sounds amazing, but what happens when you don't have access to all this equipment? What if you're in an emergency situation? The alien students looked confused by the question. Why would we practice medicine without proper equipment? Crystal asked. Emergency situations are handled by our automated systems, Unity explained. There is no need for individual medical practitioners to work without full technological support. Flo added, our medical ships carry complete treatment facilities. We would never attempt healing without the proper biofluid preparations. Jake exchanged a look with Lisa. This was going to be an interesting exchange program. The aliens had incredible technology, but they seemed to have forgotten how to practice medicine without it. Well, Lisa said, I think we have a lot to learn from each other. Tomorrow we'll start with demonstrations. Each group will show their techniques and we'll share ours. As the tour ended and everyone prepared to return to their quarters, Lisa wondered how this exchange would really work. The aliens had technology that could work miracles, but humans had something else. They had the ability to adapt, to work with limited resources, and to find simple solutions to complex problems. She had a feeling that before this program was over, both sides would be surprised by what they learned. The next morning came quickly aboard Harmony's Edge Station. Dr. Lisa Martinez woke early to prepare for the first day of medical demonstrations. She wanted everything to go perfectly. This exchange program was important for building good relationships. Between humans and the three alien races, Lisa walked to the medical bay and found Amy Foster already there. The young medical student was reading through notes on alien physiology. Amy looked up when Lisa entered. "Good morning, Dr. Martinez. I've been studying the biological differences between our species." "It's fascinating how different we all are, but also how similar in some ways," Lisa smiled. "That's the spirit, Amy. Understanding those similarities and differences will be key to making this program successful." Jake Collins arrived a few minutes later, carrying his field medical kit. He always kept his supplies ready for emergencies. It was a habit from his years working in dangerous situations on Earth. "Morning, Doc. Morning, Amy. Ready for today's show and tell?" Jake asked with a grin. Before Lisa could answer, the alien students began arriving. First came the Zephyrians, their crystal bodies chiming softly as they moved. Crystal led her group into their section of the medical bay and began activating their quantum healing equipment. The Aquarians arrived next, with Flo directing his team to check their biofluid tanks. The liquids bubbled and swirled in different colors as the systems came online. The smell of ocean water filled their section of the bay. Finally, the collective entered in their precise formation. Unity's multiple voices coordinated her team as they activated their nanosurgical systems. Thousands of tiny lights began blinking across their black panels. "Today we will demonstrate our most advanced emergency procedures," Crystal announced to the humans. "We want to show you how quickly and efficiently our technology can handle medical crises," Lisa nodded. "We're looking forward to learning from you. After your demonstrations, we'll show you some of our techniques." The alien students had prepared a simulation for their demonstration. They would show how they would treat a severe injury that required immediate attention. Each species would demonstrate their approach to the same emergency scenario. Crystal's team went first. They activated a holographic projection that showed a patient with multiple injuries. "This simulation represents a typical emergency we might encounter," Crystal explained. Her team began operating their quantum healing equipment. The process was impressive to watch. Energy fields surrounded the holographic patient, and complex calculations appeared on multiple displays. The Zephyrian students worked together, adjusting frequencies and calibrating quantum resonance patterns. "The quantum healing process requires precise energy manipulation," Crystal said as her team worked. "We must calculate the exact frequency needed to restore each damaged cell to its perfect state. This takes approximately 45 minutes for a case of this severity." Amy watched in amazement. 45 minutes? That seems like a long time for an emergency. "Quality healing cannot be rushed," Crystal replied. "Improper quantum calibration could cause more damage than the original injury." Flo's team demonstrated. Next, they prepared several tanks of different biofluids, each one designed for specific types of tissue regeneration. The process involved mixing precise combinations of living regenerative organisms. Aquarian bioregenerative healing works by introducing specialized organisms into the patient's system, Flo explained. His tentacles moved gracefully as he operated the mixing equipment. These organisms consume damaged tissue and replace it with healthy cells. The preparation process was complex. Flo's team had to test the fluid combinations, adjust the pH levels, and ensure the organisms were at the correct stage of their life cycle. They also needed to prepare the patient's body to accept the foreign organisms. This preparation phase takes 30 to 40 minutes, Flo said. But once the patient is submerged in the biofluid, healing happens very quickly. Jake watched the demonstration with interest. "What happens if you don't have time for all this preparation? What if someone is bleeding to death?" Flo's tentacles moved in a pattern that showed confusion. "We would never begin treatment without proper preparation. That would be dangerous for the patient." Unity's team went last. They released a cloud of nanosurgical robots that moved like a swarm of tiny insects. The robots were so small they were hard to see individually, but together they created a shimmering cloud around the holographic patient. The collective nanosurgical swarm can repair damage at the molecular level, Unity explained with her chorus of voices. Each robot is programmed with specific repair protocols. They work together to rebuild damaged tissue from the inside out. The nanorobots moved in complex patterns, following programming that took years to develop. The process required constant monitoring and adjustment to ensure the robots didn't damage healthy tissue while repairing injured areas. Nanosurgical procedures require 35 to 50 minutes of preparation and monitoring, Unity said. The robots must be programmed for the specific type of injury and the patient's unique biology. Lisa watched all 3 demonstrations with growing concern. Each technique was incredibly advanced and probably very effective, but they all took a long time to set up. In a real emergency, patients didn't always have 45 minutes to wait for treatment. These are all very impressive techniques, Lisa said diplomatically. Your technology is far beyond anything we have on Earth, Crystal's body chimed with pride. We are pleased that you appreciate our methods. Now we would like to see your human techniques, though we understand they are much more primitive. Before Lisa could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed and an automated voice filled the medical bay. Emergency alert. Hull breach detected in Section 7. Decompression event in progress. All personnel take immediate safety precautions. The station shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. In the zero-gravity medical bay, the alien students floated helplessly as equipment broke free from its restraints. Lisa grabbed onto a support rail and looked around quickly to make sure everyone was safe. Is everyone okay? She called out over the noise of the alarms. Most of the alien students managed to grab onto something stable, but Lisa saw that Flo was in trouble. A piece of broken equipment had struck him across his primary breathing appendage, the large gill-like organ on his neck. Green blood floated in droplets around him, and he was making choking sounds. Amy screamed, "Flo is hurt!" Jake immediately pushed off from the wall and flew through the zero-gravity toward the injured Aquarian. As he got closer, he could see that the wound was serious. The breathing appendage was torn open, and Flo was struggling to get enough oxygen. "How bad is it?" Lisa called as she carefully moved toward them. Jake examined the wound quickly. "It's deep and it's bleeding heavily. More importantly, I think it's affecting his ability to breathe. We need to fix this now, or he's going to suffocate." The alien students immediately began moving toward their equipment. Crystal's team started activating their quantum healing system, while Unity's group began releasing nanosurgical robots. "We must prepare the proper treatment immediately," Crystal said, her voice chiming with urgency. "The biofluid tanks need to be recalibrated for emergency trauma treatment," Flo's fellow Aquarians said as they worked frantically at their controls. "Nanosurgical swarm deployment requires complete system initialization," Unity announced. With her multiple voices, Jake looked at the alien students working on their complex equipment. He could see the determination in their movements, but he also knew that Flo didn't have the time they needed for their preparations. "How long will your treatments take to set up?" Jake asked. "Quantum healing emergency protocols require a minimum of 25 minutes for proper calibration," Crystal replied without looking up from her controls. "Biofluid emergency mixture needs at least 30 minutes for safe preparation," the Aquarian students called out. "Nanosurgical emergency deployment takes 20 to 30 minutes for proper programming," Unity said. Jake looked at Flo, who was getting weaker. The Aquarian's breathing was becoming more and more difficult, and his skin was turning a darker shade of green. Jake had seen enough injuries to know that Flo wouldn't survive long enough for any of the alien treatments to be ready. "Lisa," Jake said quietly, "he's not going to make it that long. His breathing is getting worse and he's losing too much blood." Lisa understood immediately. She had seen the same look in Jake's eyes many times before. It was the look of someone who knew exactly what needed to be done. Even if it wasn't the most advanced or sophisticated solution, the alien students continued working frantically with their equipment, convinced that their superior technology was the only way to save their friend. They couldn't imagine that a primitive human solution might be better than their advanced methods, but Jake was already reaching for his field medical kit, preparing to do what he did best. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most complicated one. Sometimes it was just the one that worked when it mattered most. Jake Collins floated in the zero-gravity medical bay, holding his field medical kit. He watched Flo struggling to breathe while green blood continued to leak from the torn breathing appendage. The Aquarian's skin was getting darker, which Jake knew meant he wasn't getting enough oxygen around them. The alien students worked frantically with their advanced equipment. Lights flashed and machines hummed as they tried to prepare their sophisticated treatments. But Jake could see the panic in their movements. They knew their friend was dying, but their technology needed time they didn't have. Jake opened his medical kit and pulled out basic supplies. He had antiseptic solution, local anesthetic, surgical thread, and simple needle holders. These were the same tools human medics had used for hundreds of years. To the aliens, they probably looked like ancient artifacts. "Lisa," Jake called to. "Dr. Martinez, I need you to translate for me. I'm going to fix this wound, but I need to explain to Flo what I'm doing so he doesn't panic." Lisa nodded and moved closer to Flo. The injured Aquarian looked at Jake with wide eyes. His people had never seen such primitive medical tools used in a real emergency. Crystal looked up from her quantum healing equipment. Her crystal body was flashing red with alarm. "Mr. Collins, what are you doing? You cannot treat an Aquarian with those crude tools. You will cause more damage." "His breathing is getting worse," Jake said calmly. "He doesn't have 25 minutes to wait for your quantum healing. He needs help right now." Unity's multiple voices spoke in unison. The collective strongly advised against using primitive medical techniques on advanced alien physiology. The risk of complications is too high. Jake ignored the protests and spoke directly to Flo through Lisa's translation. "Flo, I know this looks scary, but I've treated similar injuries before. I'm going to clean your wound and close it with stitches. It will stop the bleeding and help you breathe better." Flo's tentacles moved weakly. Lisa translated his response. "He says he trusts you, but he's scared. His people have never used such basic treatment methods." Jake nodded. "I understand. But sometimes basic methods work when fancy ones take too long." The alien students watched in horror as Jake began his work. First, he carefully cleaned the wound with antiseptic solution. The chemical was designed to work on human tissue, but Jake had studied alien physiology during the preparation for this exchange program. He knew enough about aquarium biology to adapt his techniques. "This antiseptic should work on your tissue," Jake explained to Flo as he worked. "It's going to sting a little, but it will kill any bacteria that might cause infection." Flo's tentacles curled with pain, but he stayed still. He could already feel his breathing becoming a little easier as Jake cleaned the damaged breathing. Appendage. Next, Jake prepared a local anesthetic. This was trickier because Aquarian nerve systems were different from human ones. Jake had to guess at the right dosage based on what he knew about their biology. "I'm going to numb the area around your wound," Jake said. "This should make the stitching process less painful." The Aquarian students were making distressed sounds as they watched. "You are injecting unknown chemicals into his nervous system," one of them said. "This could cause permanent damage." Jake looked at the worried Aquarian student. "The chemical is safe for most carbon-based life forms. I've calculated the dosage based on his body weight and what I know about your species' metabolism." Crystal's body was chiming frantically. "This is madness. Proper medical treatment requires precise calculations and controlled conditions. You are working in zero gravity with basic tools." "Sometimes that's all you have," Jake replied as he prepared his needle and thread. "In the field, you learn to work with what you've got." Amy Foster watched from nearby, taking notes on everything Jake was doing. As a medical student, she was fascinated by how Jake adapted human techniques for alien physiology. "Jake, how do you know this will work on Aquarian tissue?" "I don't know for certain," Jake admitted as he began stitching. "But the basic principles of wound closure are the same for most biological systems." Stop the bleeding, close the tear, and give the body a chance to heal itself. The stitching process required careful attention. Aquarian tissue was more elastic than human tissue, so Jake had to adjust his technique. He made smaller stitches, placed closer together to account for the different material properties. Flo watched Jake work with growing amazement. The human's hands were steady and confident, even in zero gravity. Each stitch was placed precisely, and Jake worked quickly, without being careless. Your breathing should start improving as I close this tear, Jake said to Flo. The stitches will hold the edges of your breathing appendage together while your body heals itself. The alien students had stopped working on their equipment to watch Jake. They were seeing something they had never imagined before. A human was successfully treating a serious alien injury with tools that looked like they belonged in a museum. Unity spoke with her multiple voices, but now they sounded confused rather than alarmed. The collective do not understand. How can such primitive methods be effective? Lisa answered while watching Jake work. Human medicine focuses on understanding the basic biological processes. We work with the body's natural healing ability instead of replacing it with technology. Jake finished the last stitch and tied it off securely. There, the wound is closed and the bleeding is stopped. Flo, how does your breathing feel now? Flo's tentacles moved in what Lisa recognized as a gesture of relief. Lisa translated his response. He says his breathing is much better. The pain is almost gone. Jake cleaned his tools and put them back in his kit. The stitches will dissolve on their own as the tissue heals. In a few days, the wound should be completely healed with minimal scarring. Crystal floated closer to examine Jake's work. Her crystal body was no longer flashing red with alarm. Instead, it glowed with a soft blue light that indicated curiosity. Mr. Collins, may we scan the wound to verify its condition? Of course, Jake said. I'd be interested to see what your scans show. The Zephyrian students used their advanced scanning equipment to examine Flo's breathing appendage. The results appeared on their holographic displays, and all the alien students gathered to look at the data. Crystal's voice chimed with surprise. The tissue damage has been completely stabilized. Blood flow is normal, and there are no signs of infection or complications. Unity's multiple voices spoke in unison, but now they sounded amazed rather than skeptical. The cellular damage is minimal. The wound closure is precise and clean. The collective do not understand how such simple tools achieve this result. Flo's fellow Aquarians scanned him with their biofluid analysis equipment. His blood chemistry is returning to normal levels. The breathing function is restored to 85% of normal capacity and improving. Amy looked at her notes, and then at Jake. The entire procedure took you 12 minutes from start to finish. The alien treatments would have taken at least 25 minutes just to set up. Jake nodded. Sometimes speed is more important than perfection. Flo needed immediate help, not perfect help. Dr. Martinez smiled as she watched the alien students discuss Jake's work among themselves. They were using their advanced scanners to analyze every aspect of the simple stitches, trying to understand how such basic technology could be so effective. Jake, would you be willing to explain your technique to the alien students? Lisa asked. I think they would benefit from understanding your approach. Jake looked around at the alien students who were all staring at him with new respect. Sure, I'd be happy to explain. But first, let me check on Flo to make sure he's stable. Flo's tentacles moved in what Jake was learning to recognize as gratitude. Through Lisa's translation, Flo said, "Thank you for saving my life. I had heard that human medicine was primitive, but I was wrong. Your methods may be simple, but they are also effective." Jake smiled. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest. 1. We don't always need the most advanced technology to solve a problem. We just need to understand what needs to be done and do it quickly and correctly. The alien students began asking questions about human medical techniques. They wanted to know how humans learned to work so quickly, how they adapted their methods for different situations, and how they decided when to use simple solutions instead of complex ones. For the first time since the exchange program began, the aliens were seeing humans not as primitive beings, but as skilled practitioners with valuable knowledge to share. The accident that could have been a disaster had become a learning opportunity that would change how all of them thought about medicine. The medical bay of Harmony's Edge station was quiet except for the soft humming of alien equipment. Flo floated peacefully near the wall, his breathing steady and strong. The simple stitches that Jake had placed on his breathing appendage looked almost invisible against his green skin. The alien students gathered around their scanning equipment, staring at the displays with confusion and disbelief. They had been running tests on Flo for the past hour, and the results made no sense to them. Crystal's body was flashing between different colors as she processed the information. Her crystal form chimed softly as she spoke. The scans show perfect tissue alignment. There is no cellular damage beyond the original injury. But this should be impossible with such primitive tools. Unity's multiple voices spoke in overlapping tones, creating a sound like a confused chorus. The collective have analyzed the wound closure technique. The thread used is basic organic fiber, the needle was simple metal. Yet the result is superior to what our nanosurgical simulations predicted. The Aquarian students were equally baffled. They had mixed several different biofluid combinations, each one designed to heal the exact type of injury that Flo had suffered, but none of their treatments were needed now. Our bioregenerative fluids are specifically designed for breathing appendage trauma. One of the Aquarian students said to Dr. Martinez, "We have spent years perfecting the formula. But Flo is healing faster than our fluids could have made." Him heal, Lisa smiled as she watched the alien students struggle to understand what they had witnessed. Sometimes the body knows how to heal itself. It just needs a little help to get started. Amy Foster was taking detailed notes on everything the aliens were saying. As a medical student, she found their confusion fascinating. "Why are you so surprised that the stitches worked?" she asked Crystal. Crystal's body flashed bright blue, which meant she was thinking hard. Human stitches are mechanical closure only. They do not provide cellular regeneration, quantum field alignment, or biochemical enhancement. They simply hold tissue together. "That's right," Jake said from where he was organizing his medical kit. "That's all they're supposed to do. The body does the actual healing." Unity floated closer to Jake, her forearms moving in patterns that showed deep confusion. But how can natural healing be more effective than technological enhancement? The collective have calculated optimal healing protocols that improve upon natural biological processes. Jake closed his medical kit and looked at the alien students. "Maybe your technology is too complicated. Sometimes the body knows what it needs better than any machine." The alien students exchanged looks of disbelief. This went against everything they had learned in their medical training. Their civilizations had spent thousands of years developing advanced healing technologies. The idea that simple, natural healing could be better seemed impossible. Over the next few days, the alien students watched Flo's recovery with growing amazement. They ran scan after scan looking for signs of infection, tissue rejection, or cellular damage. They found none. Crystal approached Dr. Martinez on the third day after the accident. "Dr. Martinez, we need to understand what we are seeing. Flo's wound is healing at optimal speed with optimal tissue regeneration. But he received no technological assistance beyond basic wound closure." Lisa nodded. "Human medicine is based on the principle that the body wants to heal itself. Our job is to remove obstacles to healing and create the best conditions for natural recovery." But natural processes are inefficient," Unity said with her multiple voices. The collective have identified 17 ways that biological healing can be improved through technological intervention. Jake joined the conversation. "Improved how?" "Flo is healing perfectly. His breathing is back to normal, there's no infection, and there won't be any significant scarring. What more do you want?" The alien students seemed frustrated by this question. They had been taught that medical treatment should optimize every aspect of healing, not just achieve basic recovery. Our quantum healing would have restored his tissue to perfect original condition, Crystal explained. There would be no scar tissue formation at all. Our biofluids would have enhanced his breathing capacity beyond its original level. An Aquarian student added, the injury could have been turned into an improvement. Our nanosurgical swarm would have strengthened the tissue to prevent future injuries, Unity said. Simple healing leaves the patient vulnerable to similar damage. Jake listened to all of this and shook his head. You're missing the point. Flo doesn't need perfect tissue or enhanced breathing or reinforced skin. He just needs to be healthy and functional. My stitches gave him that. Amy looked up from her notes. But don't you think the alien technologies could be useful in some situations? Enhanced healing sounds like it could help people. Maybe, Jake admitted. But what happens when you don't have access to all that technology? What if your quantum healing machine breaks down? What if you run out of biofluids? What if your nanorobots malfunction? The alien students had never considered these questions. Their medical systems were so advanced and reliable that equipment failure was almost unthinkable. Flo joined the discussion, moving his tentacles in gestures of good health. Lisa translated his words. Flo says he has been thinking about this, too. He wants to know why his people stopped learning simple healing methods when they developed advanced technology. Crystal's body chimed thoughtfully. Simple methods were considered obsolete once superior technology became available. Why would anyone choose a primitive technique when a better one exists? Because sometimes the primitive technique is the better one, Jake said. It's faster, simpler, and more reliable. It works when the fancy technology can't or won't. The alien students spent the next several days observing Flo's continued recovery. They documented everything, trying to understand how such simple treatment could be so effective. Unity approached Jake on the 5th day. Mr. Collins, the collective request instruction in human field medicine techniques. We wish to understand how to provide medical care without technological support. Jake was surprised. You want to learn basic human medicine? Why? Because your methods work, Unity replied with her chorus of voices. The collective value efficiency and effectiveness above complexity. If simple techniques can achieve optimal results, we should learn them. Crystal also expressed interest. The Zephyrians would like to understand human adaptability in medical situations. How do you decide which technique to use when you have limited resources? The Aquarian students were more hesitant, but they too began asking questions about human medical training. They wanted to know how humans learn to work quickly under pressure. Dr. Martinez was delighted by this development. This is exactly what we hoped would happen during this exchange program. We all have something to learn from each other. Amy raised her hand like she was in a classroom. Could the aliens teach us about their advanced techniques while Jake teaches them basic field medicine? We could combine both approaches. Jake nodded. That makes sense. There are probably situations where your advanced technology would be the best choice. And there are situations where simple techniques work better. The key is knowing which tool to use when. Flo's tentacles moved in agreement. Lisa translated his words. Flo says that his injury taught him something important. Advanced technology is wonderful, but it's not always the right answer. Sometimes the best solution is the one that works right now, not the one that works perfectly later. Crystal's body glowed with understanding. So human medicine is not primitive. It is practical. You choose effectiveness over perfection. That's right, Jake said. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. If good enough saves a life, then it's better than perfect. The alien students were beginning to see human medicine in a completely different way. They had come to the exchange program expecting to teach primitive humans about advanced healing. Instead, they were learning that there was wisdom in simplicity and value in practical solutions. Over the following days, the medical bay became a place of genuine exchange. The aliens began learning basic human techniques while teaching the humans about their advanced technologies. But more importantly, they were all learning when to use which approach. The accident that had nearly killed Flow had become the catalyst for a new understanding between species. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places. 3 weeks had passed since Flo's accident, and the medical bay of Harmony's Edge Station looked very different now. The once separate sections for each species had been rearranged into shared learning spaces. Human medical equipment sat next to alien technology, and students from all 4 species worked together on various projects. Flo's breathing appendage had healed completely, leaving only a thin line where Jake's stitches had been. The Aquarian had become something of a celebrity among the alien students. He was living proof that human medicine could work just as well as advanced alien technology. Dr. Lisa Martinez walked through the medical bay, watching the remarkable changes that had taken place. In one corner, Jake Collins was teaching a group of Zephyrian students how to suture wounds using basic needle and thread. The crystal beings were struggling with the manual dexterity required, but they were determined to learn. Remember, the goal is to bring the edges of the tissue together cleanly, Jake explained to Crystal. You don't need perfect alignment. You just need to close the gap so the body can heal itself. Crystal's crystal hands shook slightly as she tried to hold the needle. This is much more difficult than operating quantum healing equipment. How do humans develop such precise hand control? Practice, Jake said simply. Lots and lots of practice. When I was first learning, I practiced stitching on pieces of cloth until I could do it with my eyes closed. In another area, Amy Foster was learning about aquarian biofluid technology from Flo and his fellow students. They had set up a simplified version of their regenerative treatment system that could work alongside human techniques. The key is understanding which fluids work with human biology, Flo explained through a translator device they had built. Not all of our bioregenerative organisms are compatible with human tissue, but some of them can enhance natural healing. Amy took careful notes. So we could use your biofluids to speed up healing after we close wounds with stitches? The best of both approaches? Exactly, Flo said, his tentacles moving in what Amy had learned was a gesture of excitement. Human stitches provide immediate stabilization, and our biofluids can optimize the healing process that follows. Near the collective section, Unity was working with Dr. Martinez to develop new protocols that combined human field medicine with nanosurgical technology. They had discovered that the tiny robots could be programmed to assist with basic procedures, rather than replace them entirely. The nanorobots can be used to prevent infection and monitor healing progress, Unity explained with her multiple voices. They work as support for human techniques rather than as replacements. Lisa nodded as she watched the tiny robots move around a practice wound. This could be incredibly useful in emergency situations. Human medics could provide immediate treatment, and the nanorobots could ensure optimal recovery. The most surprising development had been the alien students' enthusiasm for learning human field medicine. They had initially been skeptical of such primitive techniques, but Flo's recovery had convinced them that human methods had real value. Crystal approached Jake during one of his training sessions. Mr. Collins, the Zephyrian Medical Council has requested a full report on human emergency medicine. They want to incorporate field medicine training into our medical education program. Jake looked surprised. Really? Your people want to learn basic human techniques? Yes, Crystal replied, her body chiming with enthusiasm. We have realized that our dependence on advanced technology has made us vulnerable. If our equipment fails or is unavailable, we have no way to provide medical care. Your techniques give us options. Unity had reached a similar conclusion. The collective have analyzed the efficiency of human field medicine. In emergency situations, simple techniques often produce better outcomes than complex ones because they can be implemented immediately. Flo had become the strongest advocate for combining human and alien approaches. His experience with Jake's treatment had given him a unique perspective on both methods. My people have incredible technology, Flo said to Dr. Martinez. But Jake saved my life with tools that would fit in a small bag. There is wisdom in both. approaches, and we should use both. The exchange program had evolved far beyond its original goals. Instead of simply sharing knowledge, the participants had created entirely new approaches to medicine that combined the best aspects of each species. Techniques. Jake had developed a new training program that taught basic field medicine to alien students. The program adapted human techniques for different alien physiologies and showed how to use simple tools effectively in emergency situations. The most important thing to remember, Jake told a mixed group of alien students, is that medical care is about helping people, not about using fancy equipment. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Amy had become an expert in cross-species medical compatibility. She had spent weeks studying how human techniques could be modified for alien patients and how alien technologies could enhance human healing. Each species brings something valuable to medicine, Amy explained to a group of visitors who had come to observe the program. Humans bring adaptability and practical solutions. Zephyrians bring energy-based healing. Aquarians bring biological enhancement. The collective bring precision and monitoring capabilities. Dr. Martinez had documented all of these developments in her reports to Earth and to the alien homeworlds. The response had been overwhelmingly positive. Medical organizations from all 4 species wanted to implement the new combined approaches. This exchange program has exceeded our wildest expectations, Lisa said during a video conference with Earth medical authorities. We haven't just learned about alien medicine. We've created entirely new forms of medical practice. The most significant change had been in the alien students' attitude toward human medicine. They no longer saw human techniques as primitive or outdated. Instead, they recognized them as elegant solutions to complex problems. Crystal had become particularly skilled at basic suturing, despite the challenges of working with crystal hands. Human medicine has taught me that effectiveness is more important than complexity, she said. A simple stitch that saves a life is better than a perfect quantum healing that arrives too late. Unity had integrated human field medicine principles into collective medical protocols. The collective now understand that medical technology should serve the patient, not the other way around. If simple tools work better than complex ones, we should use simple tools. The Aquarian students had developed new biofluid formulations that could work alongside human techniques. They had created fast-acting compounds that could be used in emergency situations without the lengthy preparation time their traditional methods required. As the official exchange program neared its end, all participants agreed that this was just the beginning. They had established permanent collaboration protocols that would allow continued learning and development. Jake had been offered positions at alien medical facilities where he would teach field medicine to their doctors. I never thought I'd be traveling to other worlds to teach aliens how to use needle and thread, he said with a laugh. Amy had been accepted into an advanced cross-species medical program that would allow her to study on all 3 alien homeworlds. I want to learn everything I can about combining our different approaches to medicine. Dr. Martinez had been appointed as the director of the new Interspecies Medical Cooperation Institute, which would coordinate medical knowledge sharing between all 4 species. Flo had recovered completely from his injury and had become a symbol of successful medical cooperation. He often spoke to other aliens about his experience and how it had changed his understanding of medicine. Jake's stitches saved my life, Flo would tell audiences. But more than that, they opened our minds to new possibilities. We learned that good medicine isn't about having the most advanced tools. It's about using the right tool at the right time to help someone who needs it. The medical bay of Harmony's Edge had become a model for the future of interspecies cooperation. Students and doctors from across the galaxy came to observe and learn from the revolutionary approaches that had been developed there. The accident that had nearly killed Flo had become the catalyst for a new era in galactic medicine. Human practicality combined with alien innovation was creating healing methods that none of them could have developed alone. As Jake often said during his lectures, sometimes the best way to move forward is to remember what worked in the past. Simple solutions and advanced technology don't have to be enemies. They can be partners.